In Memorandum A.H.H. Obiit (1833), strong Son of God, immortal love, whom we that have not seen thy face by faith and faith alone embrace, believing where we cannot prove. Thine are these orbs of light and shade, thou madest life and man and brute. Thou madest death, and lo, thy foot is on the skull which thou hast made. Thou wilt not leave us in the dust, thou madest man. He knows not why, he thinks he was not made to die. And thou hast made him, thou art just, thou seemest human and divine. The highest, holiest manhood thou, our wills are ours, we know not how. Our wills are ours to make them thine. Our little systems have their day. They have their day and cease to be. They are but broken lights of thee. And thou, O Lord, art more than they. We have but faith, we cannot know. For knowledge is of things we see, and yet we trust it comes from thee. A beam in darkness, let it grow. Let knowledge grow from more to more. But more of reverence in us dwell, that mind and soul, according well, may make one music as before, but vaster we are fools and slight. We mock thee when we do not fear, but help thy foolish ones to bear. Help thy vain words to bear thy light. Forgive what seemed my sin in me, what seemed my worth since I began. For merit lives from man to man, and not from man, O Lord, to thee. Forgive my grief for one removed, thy creature whom I found so fair. I trust he lives in thee, and there I find him worthier to be loved. Forgive these wild and wandering cries, confusions of a wasted youth. Forgive them where they fail in truth, and ill thy wisdom make me wise. Again, where does the Bible have Jesus say that he's specifically the Son of God, much less a creator and causer of death and the rest of these things? It just doesn't, the Bible doesn't have Jesus say these words. This is Christian doctrine that, they forgot to insert into his own mouth. Which, of course, Jesus in the Bible says that he doesn't speak his own doctrine. I held it truth with him who sings to one clear harp in diverse tones, that men may rise on stepping stones of their dead selves to higher things. But who shall so forecast the years and find in loss a gang to match our reach a hand through time to catch the far-off interest of tears? Let love clasp grief, lest both be drowned. Let darkness keep her raven gloss. Ah, sweeter to be drunk with loss, to dance with death, to beat the ground, than that victor ours should scorn. The long result of love and boast, behold the man that loved and lost. But all he was is overworn. And whether dying to what we shouldn't be or just accepting the loss of the natural processes of life, be prepared to die every day. Old you, which graspest at the stones that name the underlying dead, thy fibers net the dreamless head, thy roofs are wrapped about the bones. The seasons bring the flower again, and bring the firstling to the flock. And in the dusk of thee, the clock beats out the little lives of men. Oh, not for thee the glow, the bloom, who changest not in any gale, nor branding summer suns avail to touch thy 1,000 years of gloom, and gazing on thee sullen tree, sick for thy stubborn hardihood, I seem to fail from out my blood, and grow incorporate into thee. So stay true to your nature. O sorrow, cruel fellowship, O priestess in the vaults of death, O sweet and bitter in a breath, what whispers from thy lying lip? The stars, she whispered, blindly run, a web is woven across the sky. From out waste places comes a cry, and murmurs from the dying sun. And all the phantom nature stands, with all the music in her tone, a hollow echo of my own, a hollow form with empty hands. And shall I take a thing so blind, embrace her as my natural good, or crush her like a vice of blood upon the threshold of the mind? And certainly your inheritabilities can be pointed towards corrupt things. But nature is not always what you think your nature is, right? To sleep, I give my powers away. My will is bondsman to the dark. I sit within a helmless spark, and with my heart I muse and say, O heart, how fares it with thee now, that thou shouldest fail from thy desire, who scarcely darest to inquire, what is it makes me beat so low? Something it is which thou hast lost, some pleasure from thine early years. Break thou deep vast of chilling tears, that grief hath shaken into frost. Such clouds of nameless trouble cross all night below the darkened eyes. With morning wakes the will and cries, thou shalt not be the fool of loss. I sometimes hold it half a sin to put in words the grief I feel, for words like nature half reveal and half conceal the soul within. But for the unquiet heart and brain, a use and measured language lies, the sad mechanic exercise, like dull narcotics numbing pain. In words like weeds, I'll wrap me o'er, like coarsest clothes against the cold. But that large grief, which these enfold, is given in the outline and no more. Realize what things are, but get over it if you've done something wrong, you know. One writes that other friends remain. That loss is common to the race, and common is the commonplace, and vacant chaff, well meant for grain, that loss is common, would not make my own less bitter, rather more, too common, never morning, war, to evening, but some heart did break. O Father, wheresoever thou be, who pledgest now thy gallant son, a shot, ere half thy drought be done, hath stilled the life that beat from thee. A mother praying God will save thy sailor while thy head is bowed. His heavy, shotted hammock shroud drops in his vast and wandering grave. Ye know no more than I who wrought at that last hour to please him well, who mused on all I had to tell, and something written, something thought, expecting still his advent home, and ever met him on his way, with wishes thinking here today, are here tomorrow, will he come? Oh, somewhere meek, unconscious dove, that sittest ranging golden hair, and glad to find thyself so fair, poor child, that waitest for thy love. For now, her father's chimney glows, in expectation of a guest, and thinking this will please him best, she takes a riband or a rose, for he will see them on tonight. And with the thought her color burns, and having left the glass she turns once more to set a ringlet right, and even when she turned the curse had fallen, and her future lord was drowned in passing through the ford, or killed in falling from his horse. Oh, what to her shall be the end, and what to me remains of good? To her perpetual maidenhood, and unto me no second friend. And it's important to be complete in oneself, and if there's a lacking as a result of wrongdoing, well, come up with right doing to bring it back. Dark house by which once more I stand, here in the long, unlovely street, doors where my heart was used to beat, so quickly waiting for a hand that can be clasped no more. Behold me, for I cannot sleep, and like a guilty thing I creep at earliest morning to the door. He is not here, but far away. The noise of life begins again, and ghastly through the drizzling rain, on the bald street breaks the blank day. Find comfort in the same. Ah, yet, even yet, if this might be, I falling on his faithful heart, would breathing through his lips impart the life that almost dies in me, that dies not, but endures with pain, and slowly forms the firmer mind, treasuring the look it cannot find, the words that are not heard again. And bring out what seems best of the legacies of others and oneself. The Danube to the Severn gave the darkened heart that beat no more. They laid him by the pleasant shore, and in the hearing of the wave, there twice a day the Severn fills. The salt sea water passes by, and hushes half the babbling why, and makes a silence in the hills. The why is hushed, nor moving along, and hushed my deepest grief of all, when filled with tears that cannot fail, I brim with sorrow, drowning song. The tide flows down, the wave again is vocal in its wooded walls. My deeper anguish also falls, and I can speak a little then. Now, one of the things that we should be doing is trying to find a message sometimes, and where we don't think we know a message. In the silence and still. The lesser griefs that may be said, that breathe 1,000 tender vows, are but as servants in a house, where lies the master newly dead, who speak their feeling as it is, and weep the fullness from the mind. It will be hard, they say, to find another service such as this. My lighter moods are like to these, that out of words a comfort win, and there are griefs within, and tears that at their fountains freeze. For by the hearth the children sit, cold in that atmosphere of death, and scarce endure to draw the breath, are like to noiseless phantoms flit. But open converse is there none, so much the vital spirits sink, to see the vacant chair and think, how good, how kind, and he is gone. Be careful about your clinging. Enjoy the good while it's here, but don't be hard on yourself when it's not. I sing to him that rests below, and since the grasses round me wave, I take the grasses of the grave and make them pipes whereon to blow. The traveler hears me now and then, and sometimes harshly will he speak. This fellow would make weakness weak, and melt the waxen hearts of men. Another answers, let him be. He loves to make parade of pain, that with his piping he may gain the praise that comes to consistency. A third is wroth, is this an hour for private sorrows, barren song. When more and more the people throng the chairs and thrones of silver power, a time to sicken and to swoon, when science reaches forth her arms to feel from world to world, and charms her secret from the latest moon. Behold, ye speak, an idle thing, ye never knew the sacred dust. I do but sing because I must, and pipe but as the linnets sing. And one is glad, her note is gay, for now her little ones have ranged. And one is sad, her note is changed, because her brood is stolen away. Make use of the energies of what was. And was the day of my delight as pure and perfect as I say, the very source and fount of day is dashed with wandering isles of night. If all was good and fair we met, this earth had been the paradise. It never looked to human eyes since Adam left his garden yet. And is it that the haze of grief makes former gladness loom so great? The lowness of the present state that sets the past in this relief. Or that the past will always win a glory from its being far, an orb into the perfect star we saw not when we moved therein. So where will we see the signs? And what will we do about them? I know that this was life, the track, where on with equal feet we fared. And then as now the day prepared the daily burden for the back. But this it was that made me move as light as carrier birds in air. I loved the weight I had to bear, because it needed help of love. Nor could I weary heart or limb, when mighty love would cleave in twain the lading of a single pain, and part it, giving half to him. I envy not in any moods the captive void of noble range, the linnet born within the cage that never knew the summer woods. I envy not the beast that takes his license in the field of time, unfettered by the sense of crime, to whom a conscience never wakes, nor what may count itself as blessed the heart that never plighted troth, but stagnates in the weeds of sloth, nor any want begotten rest. I hold it true, whatever befall. I feel it when I sorrow most. 'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. And it may seem that the grass is greener on the other side. It may seem that people have it better, but they have the situation for them. When Lazarus left his charnel cave and home to Mary's house returned, was this demanded if he yearned to hear her weeping by his grave? Where wert thou, brother, those 4 days? There lives no record of reply, which telling what it is to die, had surely added praise to praise. From every house the neighbors met, the streets were filled with the joyful sound. A solemn gladness even crowned the purple brows of Olivet. Behold, a man raised up by Christ, the rest remaineth unrevealed. He told it not, or something sealed the lips of that evangelist. Now, one of the things is that we have, there's one thing to believe, but once you know about spiritual things, it's her eyes are homes of silent prayer, nor other thought her mind admits. But he was dead, and there he sits, and he that brought him back is there. Then one deep love doth supersede all other when her ardent gaze rose from the living brother's face, and rests upon the life indeed. All subtle thought, all curious fears, borne down by gladness so complete. She bows, she bathes the Saviour's feet with costly spikenard and with tears, thrice blessed, whose lives are faithful prayers, who loves in higher love endure. What souls possess themselves so pure? Or is it their blessedness like theirs? Now, one thing is the sacrifice of the emotions. The other is the sacrifice of the effort to go and find the best with what one has. Yet if some voice that man could trust should murmur from the narrow house, the cheeks drop in, the body bows, man dies, nor is there hope in dust. May I not say, yet ever even here, but for 1 hour, O love, I strive to keep so sweet a thing alive. But should I turn mine eyes and hear the moanings of the homeless sea, the sound of streams that swift or slow draw down the Onion hills, and so the dust of continents to be, and love would answer with a sigh, the sound of that forgetful shore will change my sweetness more and more, half dead to know that I shall die. O me, what profits it to put an idle case if death were seen at first as death. Love had not been, or been in narrowest working shot, mere fellowship of sluggish moods, or in his coarsest satire shape, had bruised the herb and crushed the grape, and basked and battered in the woods. Sometimes hate, in one way or another, serves as a good motivation. Other times, hope and fear. Other times, some Epicurean pleasure. But to serve or to act out of love is higher. Well, as long as it's orthodoxy and orthopraxy, right? Through truths and manhood darkly join, deep-seated in our mystic frame, we yield all blessing to the name of him that made them current coin. For wisdom dealt with mortal powers, where truth and closest words shall fail, when truth embodied in a tale shall enter in at lowly doors. And so the word had breath and wrought with human hands, and creed of creeds, and loveliness of perfect deeds, more strong than all poetic thought, which he may read, that finds the sheaf, or builds the house, or digs the grave. And those wild eyes that watch the wave and roarings round the coral reef. And there's different ways to speak of and express truth. With weary steps, I loiter on, through always under altered skies. The purple from the distance dies. My prospect and horizon gone. No joy in the blowing season gives, the herald melodies of spring, but in the songs I love to sing, a doubtful gleam, a solace lives, if any care for what is here. Survive in spirits rendered free, then are these songs I sing of thee not all ungrateful to thine ear. Remember to be steadfast, people. Consistent. Old water of these buried bones, and answering now my random stroke, with fruitful cloud and living smoke, dark you that graspest at the stones, and dippest towards that dreamless head. To thee too comes the golden hour, when flower is feeling after flower, but sorrow fixed upon the dead, and darkening the dark graves of men. What whispered from her lying lips Thy gloom is kindled at the tips and passes into gloom again. Prepare yourself to deal with what happens to others that you think can't happen to you. Be near me when my light is low, when the blood creeps and the nerves prick and tingle and the heart is sick and all the wheels of being slow. Be near me when the sensuous frame is racked with pangs that conquer truth, and time a maniac scattering dust, and life a furry slinging flame. Be near me when my faith is dry, and men the flies of latter spring that lay their eggs and sting and sing and weave their petty cells and die. Be near me when I fade away, to point the terms of human strife, and on the low, dark verge of life, the twilight of eternal day. And let me let you view a little bit more of the twilight here. And as long as you live, there will be more opportunity.